Hello again, YouTube. We'll be reading from the subsection, the Starting a Lightfoot Militia Unit in Your County. This is, again, by Jeffrey Stankiewicz, the founder of the Idaho Lightfoot Militia. This is from January 2011. It was revised in 2018. Starting a Lightfoot Militia Unit in Your County. Before you read this booklet, be sure you have thoroughly studied the Militia Standards and Principles of the Lightfoot. How to start a Lightfoot Militia Unit. To begin, let me thank you for taking the initiative and say that it takes real courage and conviction to stand up and say, I will be the first to step forward and organize my fellow citizens to help defend my community, state, and nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I was nervous and shaky when I started handing out flyers at the first Tea Party rally I attended in April of 2009 in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It was the beginning of what would become the Idaho Lightfoot, a constitutional militia. There was no one else, no one to back me up or offer support. I relied totally on my conviction that what I was doing was right and on my faith in my Father in heaven. About me. Starting about 25 years ago, I began to learn about the founding of our nation and principles on which it was based. I also studied the Communist Manifesto, books on socialism and Marxist revolution, and found out how close we have come to replacing our constitutional republic with a socialist democracy. As I prayed about the situation I and my country was in, I felt led to prepare to defend my rights and my neighbor's liberty. I purchased my first rifle at the age of 26. I know. But you have to understand, I was born and raised in a very liberal state, and began collecting the things I thought I might need. I gathered the proper gear, uniform, and weapons in preparation for an unknown future. I studied military history and tactics, U.S. history, the Bible, and Bible law. You wouldn't believe how many of our laws of war come straight out of the Old Testament. I studied Patton, Sun Tzu, Rommel, and Mao Zedong. For the next 10 years or so, I was, to borrow a phrase from the Army, a militia of one. After my initial preparations, I asked God what I should do. Asked Him to guide me in His direction. All I felt was, wait. If any of you have ever felt like God was guiding you in a certain direction, you'll understand what I'm talking about. For those of us who aren't in the Old Testament, God doesn't speak to you directly, at least not to me. If you've ever felt like you're being pulled in a certain direction in your life, then you know what I mean. But this was a little different. I wasn't being pulled. I felt, wait. So I did, for a long time. Then in 2009, when the Tea Party movement started up, I began to get a different feeling. And no, this had nothing to do with Obama. Remember, I was a Minuteman for nearly a decade before we'd ever even heard of him. This was a new feeling I felt now. Now? I thought. Now what? Was it now is the time to join a militia? I didn't know, but I started looking on the internet for a militia unit in Idaho. The only one I found was in southern Idaho, 8 hours drive from where I lived, and from the looks of the website there were only 3 members as far as I could tell. Plus, they only accepted Christians, Jews, and Mormons, which didn't seem right to me. They weren't a true militia. They were a private paramilitary group. The militia is the people, all the people. My idea of a militia. I feel that the first and biggest mistake most militias make is to be secretive about their existence. I know that people, myself included, are afraid of what the police powers, state and federal, have done to innocent patriotic Americans. But forming a secret, private militia is the worst thing we could try to do. First, the police and the public would view you not as their friends and neighbors, their allies whom they could call on in an emergency, but as a threat. What people don't know and understand, they fear. Second, the police, state, fed, or both, will be compelled to investigate you to make sure you aren't a threat. And as we've seen in the 1990s, when paid informants couldn't find any evidence of wrongdoing, they made some up. They needed to justify their long and expensive investigation. It's sad, but true. No, this is not the right path. I felt we should do the opposite. We should be open with the public. There should be a liaison officer with the local county sheriff's department. We should invite them to send a representative to meetings or training sessions. The unit's XO, executive officer, should send out a press release to let their friends and neighbors know what we stand for, what we are doing, and why. No one should fear the militia. The county sheriff should know that we are his friends and neighbors as well, and that if there was an emergency, he could call upon us for help. After coming to these conclusions and after much prayer, I knew that what we needed was a real militia, not a group that you join. The law is on our side. According to the U.S. Constitution, federal law, the Idaho, and many other state constitution and state code, all male citizens ages 18 to 45 years are members of the militia. According to Anglo-Saxon common law and the laws and customs of the American colonies before our separation from the British Empire, all males and even females during an actual emergency between the ages of 16 and 60 were considered members of the militia. So the militia, like your God-given rights, existed before the United States government was formed, and as such, you are already a member of the militia by statute and by God-given right. Most state constitutions allow their governor to call up the state's militia, the people, armed. Idaho's constitution mandates that the legislature shall provide by law for the enrollment, equipment, and discipline of the militia, to conform as nearly as practicable to the regulations for the government of the armies of the United States, and pass such laws to promote volunteer organizations as may afford them effectual encouragement. But they neglect their duties. Our state constitution also mandates a public school system. They do that. But what if they didn't? Would you not teach your children yourselves? Or join with your neighbors and hire someone to teach your children in the absence of an organized school system? I say yes. I also say that that's the way we should view the militia. If the state governments will not do what's right and prepare their citizens so that they can be ready for an emergency situation, then it's up to the people to do it themselves until such time as the legislature again resumes its rightful duties. Our founding. The founding meeting of the Idaho Lightfoot was held in the upstairs conference room at a local sports bar. The people who attended were mostly ex-military or ex-police officers. That fact might surprise you. But the truth is, if you found a group comprised of patriotic citizens having the common goal of helping out your community in an emergency, you end up attracting the same kind of people who've already volunteered to serve their neighbors and nation in the past. These people are a rare breed today and will not show up at meetings of secret, under-the-radar, militia-type groups. As I stated more than once at the first meeting, not only are we not doing anything illegal, we aren't doing anything wrong. We discussed our concerns about what was happening in our country and what we could do about it. I put forward my ideas for forming a militia unit, and with minor changes, everyone agreed with a few basic principles. 1. We are not a group that you join. If you are a citizen of Idaho, then you are a member of the militia according to our Constitution and state law. 2. All may come no matter what race or religion, whether man or woman. As long as you support the U.S. and Idaho constitutions, understand that our country was founded by Christians, that our laws are based on biblical law, and that it is for these reasons that all are guaranteed the right to live, work, and worship as they see fit. We do not care if you're Christian, Muslim, or atheist. As long as you stand up for the rights of others to live as they may, then you are a true protector of the Constitution. If you are a neo-Nazi, Antifa, socialist, or communist, then you are an enemy of our federal Constitution because you are seeking to replace it with a different form of government. 3. While women are welcome, they will serve in the supply medical support units, not combat units, to preserve unit cohesion. They can serve as security personnel, supply, transportation, truck drivers, medical, food service, or communications. But all women who join will be trained in firearms and basic combat skills. 4. We agreed to use the National Militia Standards as our basic framework, which was quickly modified and customized with the result being the Idaho Lightfoot Militia Standards. All officers and non-coms shall be voted on by men below them. This isn't regular army. We cannot throw you in the stockade for failing to follow orders. You cannot force men to follow you. They must respect you, want you to be their leader. 6. We voted in agreement on the flag and patches we would use for identification of friendly units. Where do you start? Find a place to hold your first meeting. A public place is best. People feel more comfortable in a coffee shop than in a stranger's basement. Many restaurants have meeting conference rooms that can be reserved for free as long as you eat while you're there. Also, check out community centers and libraries if they have separate meeting rooms. We even held meetings at the local Arby's restaurant. No kidding. Then, start customizing and printing out copies of your flyer. Include info like place, time, and the Lightfoot logo, and contact info if people want more information or can't make the meeting but still want to join. If you have a website already, add the address to the flyer. If you're like me, you want to put on a professional-looking presentation at your meetings. I purchased an Idaho state flag and an American flag at patriotflags.com. Then I went big time and purchased a recruiting banner that we could also use at gun shows and patriot rallies. I got mine at bannersonthecheap.com. Copies of the Lightfoot standards can be made at Staples. If you specify which pages are color, they'll only charge extra for those, and then charge black and white for the rest of the manual. Costs about $20 each, bound and covered. Or you can hand out copies on CD, much cheaper, and they can print them themselves. Your uniform patches, name tapes, dog tags can be found at the websites listed in the uniform section of the standards. 5. All that you need to know for your first presentation is in the standards. Study them well. At your first meeting, you will be nervous. This is natural. Just talk to your newfound patriot friends and ask them about themselves, what their concerns are, what they want to get out of this. 6. Under no circumstances is talk of explosives, illegal machine guns, or other illegal activity permitted at any time. Yes, books on explosives and such are legal and for informational purposes only, but discussing it, especially at a militia meeting, can and has been used as evidence of conspiracy. Don't fall into this trap. If someone comes to one of your meetings and starts talking about making bombs, he's either an idiot or a Fed. Just tell him not to bring it up ever again. They will either comply or not come back. 7. You should invite a representative of your county sheriff office to attend your meetings. Be open with them. You're not doing anything wrong. If not, at your founding meeting, then set up a meeting with the sheriff soon after so that you can introduce yourself and other members who'd like to come with you to help represent the unit, and allay any fears he may have about a militia unit forming in his county. At least 2 command staff officers should attend any meetings with law enforcement or public officials. 8. Since we started in North Idaho, we have networked with other groups and organizations. Tea Party, Libertarian, John Birch Society, 912 groups, and others are a great way to network. We've been welcomed by these and others with open arms, something I would not have believed 15 years ago. We started by going to their meetings, not in uniform, but not disguising who we were, handing out business cards labeled Idaho Lightfoot with contact info, and asking if we could set up an information table at their next event. Now they ask us to come. Gun shows are a great way to get your message out to the public and to recruit new people. You might even consider doing one before your first meeting. Hand out flyers with the date and time of your founding meeting. Do it right, though. Have a good-sized banner, 2x6 or 2x8, so that people know who you are. Half of our job is education, and gun shows and other patriotic rallies, county fairs are great too, are the perfect opportunity to tell your neighbors what the militia is really about. The next step. Once you've had your first meeting or 2, you need to start electing officers. This isn't a power thing. As in any association, you need leaders to help get things organized. It's honestly more of a job description than a military rank. If you read through the unit structure section in the standards on battalion command staff, you'll see what I mean. Our officers understand that they only hold their position until someone better comes along. Then we will gladly step down into the ranks. We want the best qualified people in the proper leadership roles. This is not about ego. This is about protecting our republic. Leave your pride at the door, please. In the beginning, you'll more than likely have more officers than enlisted men. This is okay because you need to have a structure in place early on if you want to maintain momentum. Your CO and XO should set up a meeting with the county sheriff and the local paper. Your training officer should start planning their training schedule and find out what the skills are of the former armed forces personnel, firemen, police, and EMTs, among others that are joining up. The training officer shouldn't have to conduct all the training himself. He should employ the experience of other members and pass the knowledge around the unit. Do you have an EMT? emergency medical technician in your group, then have him do the field first aid training class, and so on. Neighboring counties. You will probably have people coming to your meetings or emailing you for information who are not in your area simply because they don't have anything like what you're doing in their county. Give them a copy of the standards, help them form a unit in their county. Have your officers attend their first couple of meetings to help them get going. Soon enough, you'll have a sister unit next door. Help organize one more and you've formed a regiment. We in North Idaho are now the 1st Regiment of Lightfoot, consisting of the counties of Boundary, 21st Battalion, Bonner, 17th Battalion, and Kootenai, 55th Battalion. We also have a sister unit in Washington State. It came to our meetings and wanted to join us. We told them we're not a group, we're citizens of Idaho, and therefore members of the Idaho Militia. So they formed the Washington Lightfoot Militia and have been assisting other counties in their state with organizing Lightfoot units. Meetings and training. We found that a schedule of once-a-month meetings and twice-a-month training days work pretty good. If you can do more, that's great, but many people have other commitments, work, family, etc., and 3 days a month is enough to ask of them. Your training schedule should consist of a classroom training in, say, map reading and land navigation, followed on the next scheduled training day with a field training. Go out and use your map/compass to put those newly learned skills into practical use while still fresh in the mind. Use the basic training plan in the standards for your guideline concerning the proper training curriculum. It outlines the goals for individual preparedness. For training materials, we've adopted 2 well-made manuals. The first is Light Infantry Tactics for Small Teams by Christopher E. Larson. The second is the U.S. Army Field Manual FM 21-75, Combat Skills of the Soldier. Both of these books can be found online at eBay or Amazon. And finally, this path you're embarking on is not an easy one. You will need help from above. The Creator guided and protected our founding fathers before, during, and after our war for independence. We cannot be so proud and self-centered as to believe we can help protect and defend that independence without His protection and guidance. Pray with all your heart and all your soul for strength and wisdom. Then start training like a mad monkey. And that is the end of How to Start a Lightfoot Militia Unit. What is a militia of one? Well, I guess I'm borrowing a phrase that was used in the fairly recent past by the U.S. Army. They had a short-lived recruitment campaign called an Army of One. I'm using it here to denote American patriots who, for whatever reason, cannot join or form a Lightfoot unit in their area, but still wish to be ready when the time comes. So, here's what you'll need to do. First, read the Lightfoot Standards, then read it again. Next, obtain the proper uniform for your AO, Area of Operations, as well as unit patches and dog tags. Do not attach any rank patches or pins to your uniform, as all rank above private is voted upon. See Chapter 3, Rank Structure. Go to Chapter 6, Equipment, and begin assembling your gear. You can find many different options on what is the best gear, but you need to think about your particular needs. Type of weapon, ammo you carry, and your budget. A good quality surplus web belt with Y suspenders and canteen ammo pouches doesn't look as sweet as a tactical new combat vest made in China, but will last you longer and cost less. More money doesn't always equal better. Read and understand totally and completely the Statement of Ethics, Mission Statement, and Duty and Code of Conduct in Chapter 2. Live by these tenets because many have died by them. They died so that you could live free. Prepare to defend the freedoms and liberties given us by God. Purchase a copy of Light Infantry Tactics for Small Teams by Christopher E. Larson. You can find it on Amazon.com or other online bookseller. This is our standard field manual for the Lightfoot, our basic training book, if you will. In it, you will learn camouflage, movement techniques, battle drills, hand signals, etc. Memorize it. Get in shape if you're not already. You might have the body of a god, but let's just hope that God's not Buddha. Seriously, you don't have to be in top physical condition, but it would be embarrassing to die of a heart attack during the road march to the battle, wouldn't it? Most people in decent shape can pass the level 1 qualifications pretty easily, see Chapter 5. But if you want to link up with an already formed Lightfoot unit during a crisis, you should strive to pass the level 2s. Take a regular file folder and write your name, date of birth, and skill level on the tab. Fill out the paperwork at the back with standards. Make a photocopy of your driver's license or other photo ID. Your concealed carry permit shows you're not a felon, and your DD-214 if you're a military veteran. Place the paperwork and your photocopies in the file and keep it with your gear. When the time comes for you to find and join up with a unit, having the proper paperwork ready will make your placement much easier. It also shows that you've prepared and that you take your duties as a militiaman seriously. Pack your gear into a bug-out bag and keep it in a safe place, but easy to get to on short notice. Keep training. Go to the local shooting range to practice or join a gun club. Go to church or whatever your belief. Prepare yourself mentally for the times ahead. Prepare your family if you have one. Pray. Then, when the time comes, join with us.